Famous prim and proper reality dad Todd Chrisley prides himself on having it all together. Fans for years have watched this picky patriarch obsess over details and keeping up appearances. Today, the celeb may have accidentally revealed a secret weakness that he has never expressed before. Read on to get the details on Todd's latest dilemma. Official Chrisley _USA Instagram account posted a short clip today from an upcoming episode of the Chrisley Knows Best. In the clip, Todd rolls up to his house and rolling down the window as he approaches his mother and his son, Chase. From his position in the driver's seat, Todd asks his two family members what they are doing. Without waiting for a response, Todd tells them they need to get in the car and come with him. Nanny Faye Chrisley informs Todd that she and her grandson are headed inside to watch a ballgame on television. Unfortunately, Todd isn't taking no for an answer and quickly tells them they don't need to do that, and reiterates that they need to get in the car and go along with him. His mother retorts with, "But I wanted to hang out with him," referring to Chase. Father Chrisley keeps a straight face and says, "I know, Mama, but you need to hang out with me. It's very important." At this point, Nanny Faye changes her tune, thinking perhaps something might be wrong. "What we got going on?" his mother asks inquisitively. Todd simply says, "Liun and Chi," after being informed that Chase and his mother have already eaten. The reality celeb patriarch replies, "Yeah, but I can't sit by myself." Fans in the comments section of this video thought the clip was hilarious, but did point out the fact that Todd not only seems to have some attachment issues with his mother, but also seems to be overly sensitive to potential criticism. This might explain why the famous reality star can't sit by himself. Perhaps he feels like people are staring at him if he sits alone at a restaurant. Maybe he is worried that other patrons might think a date stood him up. Heck, they might even think Todd has no friends and has to eat alone. Either way, the idea of going to a restaurant to take in a meal by himself is something that he clearly takes issue with. So much so that he is literally coercing his family members to come along and eat a second lunch so he doesn't have to endure the anxiety of sitting alone. While no one is perfect, Todd Chrisley prides himself on being as close as one can get. The man can obsess over the most minute of details, and it's a rare day in Satan's ballroom that you see pictures of the celeb not looking his normal dapper self. Clearly, Todd's image is very important to him. Some fans mused that maybe has some deep-rooted issues of feeling lonely or judged. Regardless, the clip really made Todd Chrisley just a bit more relatable to the fanbase. It showed them that he too had weaknesses and combats the occasional negative internal dialogue. Why do you think Todd Chrisley is so adamant about not sitting alone in a public restaurant? Tell us your theories in the comments. As always, stay tuned to TV Shows Ace for all the latest on your favorite. Todd Chrisley has built his image with the same precision a jeweler reserves for fine diamonds. Polished, controlled, impossibly flawless. The Southern patriarch of Chrisley Knows Best has presented himself as the picture of luxury, perfection, and hypercompetence. Whether it's parenting, fashion, or managing his family's often chaotic affairs, Todd has always seemed 2 steps ahead, hair perfectly styled and wit sharpened like a chef's knife. But beneath the gleaming surface lies a vulnerability, a crack in the mirror of his curated life. Todd Chrisley, for all of his confidence and control, has a secret weakness, one thing he just can't do. And it's not something you'd expect. It's not money management, though the tabloids might have you believe that's the obvious answer. Nor is it public scrutiny, which he's faced in more ways than most reality stars can claim. No, Todd's secret weakness is surprisingly humble, even endearing. It's cooking, not just dislike or disinterest. Todd Chrisley simply cannot cook. It's not that he hasn't tried. Over the years, he's made efforts. There were brief, flickering moments of culinary ambition, a Mother's Day breakfast, a disastrous Thanksgiving attempt, a flirtation with sourdough bread during the pandemic. But each endeavor ended in some combination of smoke, flour-coated countertops, and a bruised ego. While his wife Julie could whip up buttery biscuits and perfectly balanced casseroles with enviable ease, Todd was left squinting at recipes like they were ancient hieroglyphs. The man who could orchestrate a family photo shoot down to the last coordinated sweater vest couldn't figure out the difference between baking soda and baking powder. He approached cookbooks with the same distrust one might reserve for a tax audit. And when things inevitably went wrong, when the eggs curdled, it wasn't just a failure. It was a personal offense. His relationship with food had always been more about presentation than preparation. Todd could select the perfect restaurant, critique a meal with the acumen of a Michelin inspector, and dress a table like a five-star maitre d'. But once inside a kitchen, tools in hand, he became someone else entirely, hesitant, flustered, vulnerable. His family knew, of course. The Chrisleys, for all their drama, had long accepted that cooking was Todd's Achilles heel. Savannah once joked that her dad could turn boiling water into a fire hazard. Chase had filmed him trying to peel an onion with a melon baller. Even Nanny Faye, whose culinary talents leaned toward the down-home and hearty, had tried to pass on some of her wisdom, only to watch Todd fumble through a biscuit recipe like he was defusing a bomb. What made the situation even more ironic was how much he wanted to master it. It wasn't just about ego. It was about love. Todd had long associated cooking with family, tradition, and Southern hospitality. He'd adored the idea of being the kind of dad who could whip up pancakes on a Saturday morning or surprise his family with a homemade lasagna. He watched cooking shows with admiration and sometimes envy. He took notes, bought the gadgets, stocked his pantry with good intentions, but every time he entered the kitchen, something fell apart, sometimes literally. Flour exploded out of mixers. Sauces burned. Poultry remained mysteriously undercooked despite strict adherence to timers. Even his attempts at no-cook recipes had somehow gone awry, once resulting in a tragic, watery tiramisu that the family still referred to as the dessert that shall not be named. Part of the problem was control. Todd Chrisley was not someone who could tolerate chaos, and the kitchen, for all its potential for beauty, was nothing but chaos to him. Measurements were approximate. Ingredients varied in freshness and quality. Timing required intuition, not just a clock. And intuition, at least in this realm, was something Todd just didn't have. Still, he refused to let it defeat him. His failures didn't dissuade him so much as they added fuel to his personal mission. Every now and then, he'd make another attempt, often in secret. Late-night culinary trials became his quiet rebellion, a test against his own limitations. One Christmas Eve, he tried to make homemade hot cocoa with peppermint whipped cream. The result: a scorched saucepan and a kitchen that smelled faintly of burnt sugar and mint for days. Another time, he attempted chicken marsala with a YouTube tutorial playing at full volume. The chicken was rubbery, the sauce congealed, but the effort was pure. No one doubted his sincerity. They teased him, yes, but they also admired him. There was something disarmingly human about seeing someone like Todd Chrisley, so composed, so exacting, fail so thoroughly at something so ordinary. It reminded everyone that perfection was a myth, even in a household built on image. Eventually, Todd came to terms with it. He stopped pretending he was just out of practice or too busy. He admitted, in the softest corners of his heart, that cooking just wasn't for him. He began to laugh at his own mishaps. He leaned into the joke. When friends came over for dinner, he'd tell them straight away, "I didn't cook, but I did coordinate the meal." And truly, he was the best host anyone could ask for. He made sure drinks were full, guests were comfortable, candles were lit just right. He curated playlists and designed menus. Even if someone else was doing the actual cooking in time, his kitchen became a space of collaboration rather than frustration. He took to inviting chefs and talented friends into his home, turning meals into experiences. He asked questions, watched, learned, not to conquer the kitchen, but to appreciate it. He supported Julie's cooking without trying to replicate it. He complimented, cleaned up, and poured the wine. He found his role, and it wasn't behind the stove, but beside it. Strangely enough, his weakness became part of his charm. Fans who once saw Todd Chrisley as intimidating in his precision began to connect with him more deeply. They saw themselves in his burnt cookies and overcooked pasta. They saw their own kitchen misadventures reflected in his. And rather than hide it, Todd leaned in. He joked about it in interviews, posted the occasional failed dish on social media, and even toyed with the idea of a segment called Cooking with Chrisley. Don't try this at home. There was freedom in surrendering to imperfection. For a man who had once tried so hard to control every detail, letting go of the one thing he simply couldn't do was a revelation. It softened him. It made him more real. In a world obsessed with curated images and filtered lives, Todd Chrisley's inability to cook became a small, surprising gift to himself and to others.